personally, professionally. Don't tell my other bosses. This is my favorite part of the week. I love to hang out with David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley, the co-founders of In Goal Magazine. This is In Goal Radio, the podcast presented by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. Can't wait for our gear segment with Cam. Going to deal with the Bauer GSX line. We also have a huge, fun, awesome, just educational interview with Eric Comrie coming up in our NHL Sense Arena feature interview. The Stop It Goaltending You, the app parent segment, is learning how to be a pro. And our focus on pro reads presented by Visual Edge is with Devin Cooley. We got a whole lot going on today, boys. And I just want to hang out with you guys.
It's a busy time in the goaltending world, Darren. There's lots of good things. And another busy time for a lot of our sponsors that you mentioned, whether it's the Hockey Shop Source for Sports, NHL Sense Arena, or our new sponsors at Visual Edge of the Pro Reads. It's almost Black Friday, second Thanksgiving. The real Thanksgiving happened up here in Canada already, but everybody celebrates yours on your side of the border because it comes with Black Friday. Savings everywhere. Make sure you check out all our socials because we'll be sharing them with you soon.
Have you guys dipped into any Black Friday pre-sales?
No. Attaboy.
No, I have. I wanted to softly get into the buying season. Just dip my toe into it. We got some Four Nations conversation to come up as the rosters are going to be announced in the next inside the next 3 weeks. So the finalization and jockeying for position is happening there as Andrei Vasilevsky makes some history by smashing the record to be the fastest of 300 wins. I was blown away by how much of a difference there is now between 1 and 2.
Yeah, Darren, there's a huge gap, both in terms of games played and years, because Vasilevsky did it in 490 games. Number 2 on the list is Jacques Plante in 521 games. So that's a 31 game difference. Plante obviously playing for some incredible teams in Montreal. Still 31 games, incredible in this day and age. And number 3 on the list, Sergei Bobrovsky. So we've got 2 current NHL goaltenders at the top 3, Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky. Russia's not in the Four Nations, but if they were, they'd have some interesting decisions to make, wouldn't they?
Good problem to have. Andrei Vasilevsky is on an absolute tear at the start of this season. We know he had the back surgery last year, made some changes this year. We talked about it with Adam Francilia on the podcast when we had him on in the summer, that Andrei reached out and is now working with him. I talked about it early this season. When I watched him play the Canucks, I felt like a little bit like I was watching some Connor Hellebuck, a little bit of the, as Helly likes to call himself, the big boring, just a little more sort of control, staying upright longer in some of Vasi's play, and he reads the game so well. He just made it look so easy, and maybe that was the way the Canucks were playing at the time, but he's actually like the top of all 3 of those Russian goalies in adjusted save percentage at this point at plus 2.25. Shesterkin's right behind him. Not far behind them is Sorokin. And then a little further down, not quite as strong statistically, but the guy's coming off a Stanley Cup win and is one of the best of all time, a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, Sergei Bobrovsky. So that, obviously they'd rather be there, but not being there, man, saves them making a really tough decision on which of those 3 you'd pick.
Oh, it only puts it off for a year, you guys. It's not like they're not going to have to get into this. The Olympics are in 2026, so and Russia will participate in that. Right now, Andrei Vasilevsky.
Ryu. I like all the data.
Oh, that's awful. You're really just going to sit there.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be fair to either of them for me to jump to any conclusions, now would it?
That's a tough one, though, man. Like him and Shesterkin, speaking of the data, are like neck and neck statistically, and Sorokin is not far behind. And then, like I said, all Bob does is win. So I got to say this, though. Like, I'm just happy to see Vasi back at the level. Obviously, with the back surgery last year, didn't have a season like we're used to seeing. I probably underestimated the role that back surgery would play, and good on him for despite having a career as decorated as it is, understanding that as he ages, he's not going to be able to rely on his freak athleticism, or shouldn't want to rely on it as often as he has in the past, and that's a path towards injuries, and making some changes in how he trains and moves. So it's a heck of a bounce back so far. It's a great story. I'm not sure it's one that's been told a ton, because it takes the advanced numbers to sort of recognize how good he's been behind a team that is looser than it's been in the past. But, this is a guy who's, top 5-6 in the league right now among starters and having a hell of a year.
Woody's just glad to see all this, because he texted us early in the season and said, look, this is the breakout guy, if I can say that for a guy who's top on this list. He's going to have an unreal season. Then he had a little bit of a dip, and Woody was feeling a bit sheepish and nervous. So he's super excited that Vazzy's come back and made him look smart.
Super brave of me to pick Andrei Vasilevsky to be good.
No, but if you think about it, didn't we do that in the context of breakout, like in the sense that he's coming off surgery and so on, and was going to maybe rise to new heights again this year. Is the way I interpreted what you were saying.
Okay, so if you're gonna help me pat myself on the back, let me take an L here. Happily take an L here, because the numbers sort of looked not as flattering once you accounted for the system and how good they were structurally last season. So I worried a little bit about how it would translate with a new team. But Cam Talbot is absolutely killing it in Detroit right now. It is no longer a small sample. Amongst starters, Cam Talbot is first in the National Hockey League in adjusted save percentage. He is giving them everything they asked for and more. And I could not be happier to see that come to fruition. I mean, that's, again, the numbers have limitations, right? You have to remember, this is a veteran presence, a team that really needed that kind of stabilizing presence, alongside Alex Lyon, who is off to a good start as well. But Talbot is giving them exceptional goaltending in Detroit right now. And one of those ones where the questions I had and asked in some spots publicly, really happy to take the L on that one, because the numbers have gotten it wrong so far. Cam Talbot's having a literally top of the league season right now.
At the end of the day, we're going to ask, why doesn't he get a long-term contract, and why does he play for so many teams? Because he plays well for everybody.
Yeah, it's fair. And the long-term contract's probably just more to do with the age, right? Because it's and the volatility. And I think a lot of people looked at the Kings and just thought they're really good defensively. And honestly, the numbers sort of bore that out a little bit. And, tough last year, you end up backing up in the playoffs. David Rich takes the net. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who is in net. The Oilers just overwhelmed the Kings. And maybe that has something to do with it. But good on him.
Like, he goes to all-star games.
100%.
And I've said it here before. I think sometimes management in hockey puts sort of narratives on guys, and it's really hard to break out of that narrative that surrounds you. And even if we may see something different and the numbers might say something different, guys get pigeonholed in this game, and it's unfortunate. So it's great to see him having a big year. And sometimes you have to really exceed that narrative for you to be able to break out of it. And it looks like he's starting to do that right now.
Well, you know what? I mean, one of the things he's talked about, shameless plug for one of our new sponsors, Visual Edge, is his use of their product in the past couple of years has been a game changer that sort of led to a lot of those all-star games and all the success he's had in the last couple of years. So we're going to get him on and we're going to talk about that and his work with Visual Edge in the near future. But it brings me to another breakout candidate this year, just at the American Hockey League level, and a guy who I don't think will be there very long. Our pro reads this week was with Devin Cooley. We did the video while he was with the San Jose Sharks, but he is absolutely, again, much like Talbot, I'm throwing this phrase around a lot, absolutely killing it with the Calgary Flames affiliate, the Calgary Wranglers, so far this season. His save percentage, when we did the pro reads, I haven't checked to see how it went on the weekend, but the save percentage was .954 at that point, and we're well into the season for him. So the first goalie this year to be named the American Hockey League Player of the Week, coming off a 2 shutout week. Devin Cooley is absolutely killing it. And he was our guy in pro reads this week, which of course is brought to you by Visual Edge.
Should mention Devin's name has come up a couple of times in my conversations with people at the American Hockey League level, and it's just organically surfaced as well as he's played. He's earned the right to be a conversation topic. On the Four Nations conversation, 3 weeks until the rosters are announced, how much fluidity do you think there is in the discussions about the goaltenders?
I think there's still a little fluidity in the 3 spot.
For Team Canada?
I have
Depends
a
on the
hunch.
country, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it does. With Canada, I mean, I would hope that Cam Talbot's opening some eyes with the start he's had. You know, we talk about narratives and respect, but I do think it's a little baked in the 1 and 2. I'm not sure, but I have a hunch it might be a little baked in the 1 and 2. I think you're going to see a Binnington Aiden Hill combination for Canada. I think that's going to be the top of their pecking order, and we'll see where they go with 3. Is it a Talbot because he's the hot hand right now? Is it the experience and joy that a Marc-Andre Fleury brings to the rink? Could we see that because he's having a good season? Or, talk about guys that are earning it. You saw him last night, Darren. Logan Thompson's got some of the best numbers in the league right now, both raw numbers and adjusted. Could we see a lefty thrown into the mix? So I'd sort of want to find a guy on a heater if I was Canada. And, the 2 guys I think they have tabbed haven't necessarily been on heaters, but they've got a pedigree and they've done it for years. And so I think that's the way they're probably going to go.
I don't think there's a path to Marc-Andre Fleury just based on retiring. And if you're going to use that 3 spot, use it as somebody that you can expose to the situation for potentially an Olympic appearance. That's
fair.
My impression
that's
from it.
That's fair. I know his name got thrown in there and got kicked around a little bit, and I love the idea, but obviously you're right. Not everybody does, and you want to build.
Sentimentally, it would be awesome. What about the American side? It seems like there's
tough decisions,
a less firmness based on the play than we had before.
It's got to be Hellebuck.
Yeah,
clear.
Number 1's not hard.
Yeah, and then you've got Ottinger, I would think.
Solid.
Ottinger's right behind Connor Hellebuck statistically. And then the last one is, I would assume, a Jeremy Swayman Thatcher Demko decision. And Swayman hasn't had the start, but he has enough of a track record to know what he's capable
Demko
of.
hasn't started.
And Demko hasn't been on the ice. So, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you're probably happy if he's not on this list in a couple of weeks, because the last thing you want to do is add to his workload as much as he deserves it based on his past play.
Do they name the goaltenders, or do you think they name the goaltenders and tell somebody that they're number 3?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't have that answer.
Because it's so far out from the tournament that I think they would love the option of leaving it more wide open.
That's the wise decision.
If you what's that old saying about if you have time, use it? I don't think I'd be 100%. Telling anyone.
Well, especially if you talk about the Talbot situation, right? Like if you look at those, Binnington Hill is baked in if you want, Woody. Talbot being number 3 in that situation, dare I say, is about narrative again. But if you give him a little bit more time, a little bit more runway, if he stays at the top of the league, how can he not break into the top 2?
And he's like, his numbers right now are so exceptional that they inevitably, like, nobody sustains that level over the course of a season. It would be a historically great year. Like Shesterkin's Vezina year, where everybody was talking about the heart, wasn't at the level that Talbot's at now. And so it will be hard to maintain it. But imagine if he did. Like, you don't want to close the door on that.
What about Sweden and Finland? Should we do a deeper dive on that next week?
We can save it if you want. I can give you the Finns right now. Let's save it, Darren. That's called a tease, I think.
Let's do it next week.
I would rather do it next week because I would like to be more prepared for names and possible alternatives. Because on the Swedish side, I need to do a little bit more digging. If that's fair
Works
to you
for me.
guys.
Let's do it.
And it might give Hutch an opportunity to really decide on his fence sitting.
I'm not fence sitting for Four Nations. I was fence sitting for the Olympics.
That I know, but it'll give you another week to find towards 2026. Yeah. Oh no, you found a fence. You might find a more comfortable seat, and I'm not sure you can get more relaxed up there.
Fence, so I'll go look for one of those.
Our gear segment brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. We're dealing with the Bauer GSX line.
We are. We're continuing to look at the kids lines. I almost did it, Hutch. I almost said youth, but that's actually technically a line.
Yep.
Bauer GSX, junior, intermediate, senior. Hockey Shop, hockeyshop.com. They've got that and more. Before we get to the gear segment, a reminder, there is no better place to gear up for Christmas than the Hockey Shop or the hockeyshop.com, including their upcoming Black Friday sale. You'll be able to get discounts on the things that your goalie needs, whether it's stocking stuffers, a stick under the tree. Isn't it always fun to come downstairs on Christmas morning and see that big long stick all wrapped? Maybe less fun to wrap for the parents, but the joy that goalies get out of that. Or a full set of gear. Well, no matter what you need, the Hockey Shop has it, and the staff and the expertise to make sure that it's the right thing for the goalie on your Christmas gift list. So make sure you check them out, whether it's in person in Langley at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports or thehockeyshop.com, and they will have something to help you for the goalie in your life this holiday season, including the Bauer GSX line, which Cam is going to walk us through for the junior, intermediate levels. They also come in senior, but let's just shut up, Kevin. Let's let Cam explain. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop. We're here in Goalie Utopia with Cam Matwiv and the new Bauer. Well, not new, Bauer GSX. It's got new features on the Bauer GSX that weren't available in the past. Junior, intermediate colors, pro-level features. We're going to get into them in this segment with Cam. Why don't we start with the pro-level features we tease?
Oh, my goodness. The best part about this pad, that they bring down the StabiliFlex knee.
All the way to junior and
intermediate and senior, which the GSX is all available in. But the best part is having this down in a junior pad, because that's not something that wasn't available before. Again, this GSX has been around for a little bit now, but we're definitely want to call out some of these highlights again.
It's that time of year where kids are deciding to be goalies full time, and this is the type of pad, if you're a parent, that you want to come in and look at if they're taking that step.
For sure. I mean, that need just can't be ignored. That extra stability when you do drop down, why they call it StabiliFlex, in terms of being able to sit tall on the butterfly, get used to those mechanics, especially as that kid tearing through as well. Again, great option, really helps with the overall control of the pad. And then that similar slide surface, not exactly Core-Tec, but very, very close to it. You're getting a very easy sliding pad, very stable pad. Can't say enough good things about that GSX available at that price point.
Colors are new. This last time we did this, it was black and white.
Yeah.
Just simple. Like we were in the 50s. Now?
We're in the 50s. Now we're bringing it to the 21st century.
You had to think about that, eh?
You know
what century we're in, right? Navy, blue, red.
All options that are available.
Here in store, stock.
Yes.
Off the wall.
Yes. You can find them at thehockeyshop.com.
Glove.
Nice, snappy, easy closer.
So important for kids to be able to close their glove.
That junior style hand. Say the joke if you want it. That's fine. It's too late. It's on Kevin's hand, so clearly he has a junior hand. It's fine. It's easy. Nice, snappy closure. Double T. White. Going to have the skate lace. The colors don't. As we see here, but that's always something that can be relaced aftermarket, if you please. Nice, easy blocker. Flip it around. The palm continues on with all of the Bauer style blockers. A little bit of a tighter hand fit. Again, great for having that extra control, especially, learning those fundamentals and whatnot for that junior size kid. Overall, colors definitely really pop. Help to add a nice refresh to the lineup.
Okay, so sizing. Kids, walk me through the different sizes. We're talking about this. Again, it goes all the way to senior, the GSX line.
Correct.
But this, we're talking about
there's some crossover sizing.
Junior.
Yep.
What size range do we start at for this?
So junior small, which would be a 26-inch, 26 plus 1. So as you've seen before in Bauer's sizing, the small, medium, large category still exists. Medium 28, large 30. 30 is also a crossover size and intermediate. Why would I change? The intermediate pad, you will find more structure to it. The knee cradle is going to be a little bit bigger. So same technical equivalent size, but the pad itself, harder pack density foam too as well on the inside. So you will start to feel that difference kind of between the two. When do I make that transition? When your child's ready, which is also, okay, when is he ready? You can tell by the extra size of the child. If he's tall and super skinny, potentially that junior pad is still correct. He's filled out a little bit more, control of something that's going to be a little bit more heavier. He's ready for a little bit more advanced pad. Okay, that's when we make that next step up to that intermediate size.
One of the things that we didn't mention this time when we did the last time, it has a pillow on the inside as well. Cam talked about stability in the butterfly. So that pillow can give you a little extra, just making sure when you're landing, that little bit of support to keep that pad flush and keep your goalie sort of balanced over top of his knees when he's on the ice, especially as Cam said, before he sort of gets that body control, just to make it that much easier. And then as he gets it, if you want, you can take it out because it's removable by Velcro. So just one of the many features they thought about on these junior and intermediate pads to help young goalies be comfortable and able to play the position like they see goalies at the higher levels do.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you got any other questions, Cam went on about sort of the different levels, the different ages. That's the expertise you get when you come here to the Hockey Shop in person at the Hockey Shop or hockeyshop.com, or if you want to give them a call with questions about what size for your kid.
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790.
That's the expertise you get. These are questions that parents often have about, what do I really need for my kid? Cam and his crew will make sure you get the answers that will help them get into the right gear.
Perfect. Thanks, Kevin.
I've been waiting that entire visit by Kevin and Cam to get back to how he introed the gear segment. And a great idea, Hutch.
New swag for Ingoal.
We're going to get some t-shirts.
We got to get t-shirts.
Yeah, we're going to get some
Shut
t-shirts.
up, Kevin. My mother won't be impressed. I was never allowed to say shut up growing up, but I'll put it on a t-shirt and I'm going to send one to each of Kevin's daughters.
Who have, in no uncertain terms, used that phrase, perhaps with more colorful language.
This goes back to 1999. And that was the year the Dallas Stars won the Stanley Cup. And Brett Hull was on that team. And Mike Keane made hats that said, "Shut up, Hull," and handed them out to all of his teammates during the Stanley Cup final as a way to lessen the pressure, have some fun, and enjoy themselves. And we were in Dallas at the practice rink covering that championship series, and out they all come with their "Shut Up Hull" hats. And Keane walked over to me and said, "Pretty good, eh?"
Mike Keane, I had the pleasure of him later in his career here in Vancouver, is just an absolute treasure. So that story does not surprise me that it was him at all. Just a treasure of a human being. And your perfect locker room guy, just ultimate leader. So he was the one that was on the bench when Johan Hedberg broke his wrist and the emergency backup goalie was on the bench, Chris Levesque from UBC. And poor Chris, nobody knew that he'd broken his wrist, and he ultimately never came out of the game. He went for a diving poke check at the blue line. Probably tops among the things you shouldn't do when the next guy up was recently a third or fourth stringer at the local university. But he actually broke his wrist on the play, and Levesque, the camera flashes to him, and he's just chewing that gum like crazy, just as hard as you can chew gum. And Mike Keane just looks down all casual and says, "Don't worry, kid. He'll get up." Just an absolute beauty. It was only a year or maybe a little more than a year that he was here, and then he went to coaching back in Winnipeg, which I believe is where he's from, but one of the all-timers.
Yeah, good Winnipeg guy. I'm going to find out. I'm going to get in touch with Mike and see where he got those hats. I wonder if he still got the contact name. Shut up, Kevin. Shut up, Kevin. Let's get into the Focus on Pro Rates presented by Visual Edge. And we're zeroing in on Devin Cooley, who is turning the American Hockey League on its ear right now.
Yeah, before we get to Devin, I want to talk to you a little bit about Visual Edge. We teased it a little bit earlier with Cam Talbot and the way he's used the product. He's one of more than 50 NHL and American Hockey League goalies that use Visual Edge, which is essentially weight training for the eyes and brain, a way to strengthen your visual and cognitive processing skills. For peak performance, you take an edge test to start it off, sort of get your baselines on where you're at. I've done that myself, and I'm now in the process of trying to improve those baselines. It's early for me, only been doing it for a little over a week. Got a skate tonight that I'm really eager to sort of see how it's going to work, but I feel like I'm seeing the puck better already, and that makes sense based on the way they train and improve certain aspects of your visual system. Especially for me, it's convergence, ability to track objects coming to you. But it's one of just 6 skills that they train. It's a really easy online program. They send you the glasses, and of course, all listeners receive 15% off. Hutch, what's the code for 15% off?
Well, it's pretty tough. In goal.
See, super easy. So simple, even I can't remember it.
If you're an In Goal member and you go check out any pro read in the last few weeks, you will see the code for In Goal members, and then you get to save 30%.
And I would highly suggest checking out, as Darren said, the pro reads this week. Devin Cooley may be wearing San Jose Sharks gear because we caught up with him before he signed with the Calgary Flames. But this is a young man who, if you remember his podcast appearance, is very much still learning new elements of the position. He was so good explaining sort of some of the things that are new to him, bit of a quote unquote late bloomer, and he is blooming in the American League right now. This week, we talk about, kind of reminds me of the Joseph Woll one last week, speaking of another visual edge user, about looking off the puck. There's important elements in that where Devin talks about when to look off the puck and why and the importance of it. And then he gets into the importance of flattening out your reverse VH and when to do it. And this is something I see a lot. I've talked to you a lot about, Hutch, like guys coming into the reverse too steep with their inside leg too uphill towards the top of the crease, and how that limits some of their lateral mobility instead of coming in a little flatter. And so Cooley walks us through all that in this week's gear segment. I know Darren, us old guys, we're just lucky to get into the reverse V. Actually, we can get in. It's getting out that hurts. But at the higher levels, they actually have to learn how to steer and flatten themselves out. And Cooley does a great job of explaining why that's important in this week's video.
I'll give you a little homework too. If you're watching this week's pro read, or maybe go back if you've already checked it out, there's another little element in there where Devin Cooley handles it his way. If you were to go back and look at the videos we did with Bill Ranford showing their system on the post, you'd see that as an LA King, he'd be asked to play that a little bit differently. So go see if you can find out what that is as your homework for this week.
Ooh. At least there was no math. I didn't know there was going to be homework, but I like that.
I don't know. You just did a bunch of angles, Woody. That's math.
Oh, don't tell me that.
With Woody on the steepness of the RVH and when to flatten out, when to be a little bit more aggressive. That's something that I've certainly struggled with as far as the approach to it. Well,
it's interesting because there are some coaches, and obviously here in Vancouver, I've been around Ian Clark for a number of years, and his goalies go inside out. They actually sort of loop as they go in, so they're always flatter, 30 degrees relative to the goal line in terms of their alignment on the post is their ideal. And by being flatter, you sort of push that shoulder into the post. There's less, like most of the guys that get ripped short side, quite often it's because they're steep and it's harder to get that short side high coverage. It's easier to sort of push into the post along the goal line and up than it is to push downhill into the post and get your head against it.
I guess when I'm going in early, I'm still worried about the far side a little too much and trying to be a little more square to it.
Well, that's where I run into trouble. The shooter is too. And that depends on the threat too, right?
And that's why we have pro reads, right? So you can figure out what threats to do what with. And I'm going to be honest with you, Darren. For me, when I go into reverse VH, my biggest worry is being able to get out of it.
You want me to go across and get up?
I've fallen down and I can't get up.
And then if you're outside the crease a little bit and you're trying to slide back, there's all kinds of issues. But I can't wait to dive into that with Devin Cooley, who is a name that you're going to hear a lot more of, and one of those names that I'm proud really surfaced through In Goal Radio, the podcast.
Well, hey, here's a tease for you. For all you goalies that are listening to us talk about reverse VH, but you're my size, and the reality of me in a reverse VH is I'm not covering anywhere near the crossbar, we have got another Calgary Flames guest coming up this week at ingoalmag.com. Talk about reasons to get an In Goal Premium membership beyond the fact you're saving 30% on Visual Edge. How about Dustin Wolf, who is off to an exceptional start himself in the National Hockey League as a listed at 6 foot, good luck if he's that tall, goalie, on post separation, which is another word for that step out or overlap. We've got full video. We've got a breakdown from Flames goalie coach Jason LaBarbera and a whole bunch of videos of Wolf working on his post integration that I think probably actually translates for a lot more of us and a lot more younger goalies who aren't big enough to get into a reverse and seal up to the post. It's a great video, a great pro drill, and that'll be up later this week at ingoalmag.com, where we bring you more bang for your goaltending buck.
Looking forward to it. The parent segment now, brought to you by Stop It Goaltending You, the app.
Another one of our sponsors.
Oh, geez, it's a big day.
It's a big day for sponsors. Stop It Goaltending You, the app. You get a free... there you go. If you don't want to buy a membership just to InGoal, get a membership to Stop It Goaltending You, the app, and you automatically get a membership to InGoal, which gives you all the pro reads, which gives you the 30% off the visual edge, which gives you the Dustin Wolf post-separation drill, and hundreds more like it. But that's not all you get. In addition to an InGoal Mag, InGoal Premium membership, when you buy a Stop It Goaltending You, the app membership, you get access to all their great content as well. Their 5-part daily primer this week, and each week there's 5 different 1-minute quick hits you can look at in 1 minute and get better every day. They look at a season assessment. We're a month, maybe 2 months in for some teams into your season. How do you assess the way it's going? They've got a 5-parter on that this week. 5-minute drill from Joe Canada, former Canuck, former pro, on reverse VH tips. Again, we talk about flattening out and when to. He's got reverse VH tips up there. And then 20-minute deep dive video this week on T-push versus shuffle, when the differences and when to use which one. So tons of information over at Stop It Goaltending You, the app, proud sponsors of the InGoal Radio Parents segment.
Let's be a better pro.
Let's be a better pro. First thing, a great parent segment is just listening to the Eric Comrie interview this week. I know we've teased it a few times, but there was a piece in there on trusting your process that I clipped out as I was editing it, and I sent it to both of my kids, Maddie, and I still claim our former billet Cooper Black as part of the family. So I sent it to Cooper as well. I just said, this is so good. You guys have to listen to this. I will clip it and put it in with the parent segment this week. So mums and dads, you can send it to your kids if you want, because I know some of the younger kids don't have the patience to listen to the whole thing, but they should. Anyway, I did have something else prepared for this week, guys. And as I was growing up in the game, I kept hearing people on broadcast talking about all these guys coming into the league and needing to learn to be pros. And I wondered what that meant. And I thought, when you're a little bit younger, you actually can learn some of these things yourself. Now, there's levels to it that you can't as a minor hockey player. That grind of an 82-game schedule, the long travel, balancing family life with hockey. That's pretty tough to learn that as a young kid. But you can get a start as a young goaltender. And parents, you can support this. Now, the first thing I want to say is I'm not suggesting we take all the fun out of the game. We don't want young kids to be all business all the time. They're playing hockey to have fun. I, for one, hate hearing of minor hockey coaches telling kids on those fun away tournaments that they have to stay out of the hotel pool. And mini sticks belong in the hotel, of course, as well, guys. But while there's some things you can do to teach a young goalie to become more professional, and I'll put that in air quotes, because to me, being professional as a young goalie is learning to be responsible for your equipment, for your time, for your training, for your game, those sorts of things. And it will come over time, but there's no reason you can't start at a young age. When I see top major junior goaltenders, the ones you just know are headed for a career in the game, and somebody who comes to mind for me, Woody, is Dylan Garand, who's playing in the American League and the Rangers system, as somebody who was professional from a young age. They do all these things just as a matter of habit at every goalie skate even. They don't have a coach telling them what to do. So what could you do? You've heard me talk before about helping your young goalie learn to be responsible for packing their gear, knowing when it's time to leave for the rink, and so on. You can check out some of those articles and parent segments. I'll have them linked. By the way, just a reminder, every parent segment is published separately at ingoalmag.com. It's unlocked. You don't have to be a member, and you can go just listen to this segment. And in there, we will have links to these different articles and things I'm referring to today. Second thing you can do, teach your kid that when they get to the rink, often coaches want you to be there early, an hour early at a really young age, but there isn't a whole lot of direction after that. And you see kids not even sure what to do with themselves. So simple things you can do, like lay out your gear in the locker room like you would see a pro do it in an NHL stall. And I know some minor hockey dressing rooms, you don't have the room, but if you do, hang the chesty, hang the pants, get everything set out just so before you even start getting ready. And then you take that bag and you roll it up and you stick it underneath the bench. That's the way the pros do things. And you can start learning to do that from a young age. On practice days, tip number 2, when you hit the ice, there's often a whole lot of unstructured time to begin as players are skating around, shooting pucks into the net. And too many goalies either just go straight into the net, although I think most of us tend to avoid it, or they just sit by the boards out at center ice, just doing that lazy groin stretch. And I even see this in game warm-ups. Mom and dad, go find a couple of in-goal warm-up articles, and again, we'll link them, but maybe the Dustin Wolf or Sergei Bobrovsky skating warm-ups, and help your young goalie learn them for that unstructured time. Now, I'm not saying you stand on the bench and walk them through it, but maybe you show them just one little piece of it and say, hey, why don't you try this today before practice? And eventually they can learn something that will become their own routine, much as you see older goaltenders doing now as soon as they hit the ice. Do you think there's a coach telling Dustin Wolf to do his skating warm-up every day when he hits the ice? That's his. He's probably done it for years, and he's going to continue to do it. Even a few minutes spent on edge work, as others are just messing around on the ice, will yield literally hours of extra practice in your minor hockey career. And then the last little tip, have some good mindset practices at home. You could check out Pete Fry's articles, for example, over at ingoalmag.com. Also, last week's parent segment, where we talked about not blaming others. Just having a little bit of time to focus on a few of those mental skills will help you have the mental approach of a pro. And as I mentioned, listen to Eric Comrie's interview today to learn a little bit about that as well. Like I said, an 8 or a 9-year-old does not need to learn to do all of this, although some of them might like it. And don't get frustrated if it takes time for your kid to develop some of these habits. But if you can develop a few of them, you're going to have your young goalie well on their way to being a pro.
I love the idea of unpacking the bag, hanging stuff up, and then throwing it, the bag underneath. One, it creates way more room in the locker. And the other one is, if you forgot something, you know right away. It can give you like a 20-minute head start because we've all forgot stuff.
That's an excellent point, Darren, for sure. That's actually one of the reasons, one of the big questions you see in the parent groups amongst the really young goalie parents, new to the game, wanting to know which of those giant grit locker bags they should be buying for their kid. And you walk into the 5-6-year-old dressing room and there's 20 of these giant locker things because we want to buy the cool thing for our kids. I would suggest not going that route, because as you get older, like we said, they wrap up that bag, they stick it underneath the bench. It's kind of an expectation of coaches. So there's room to walk around in the dressing room. And by the way, it's a lot safer there too, because then you don't have skates tripping all over people.
With you on that. The great advice about listening to the Eric Comrie interview is fantastic. The NHL censoring a feature interview on In Goal Radio, the podcast. Woody, this is fantastic.
Hey, before we get into it,
I was just going to say, one of the things you can do, Hutch, is fire up NHL Sense Arena to make sure you've got your eyes and hands warmed up so you don't have to stand in the net and let guys rip it bar down on you to get warm.
You sure can. And I had Sense Arena on this week, and they got a great new feature, guys. I don't even know if you've seen this yet because it was just announced. They have something called the Open Skate. It's in beta. It's still sort of being tested and developed, but it's basically stick and puck drop-in hockey. You go on there, they've got the ice divided up into different zones. You can set up nets with targets and cones and all sorts of cool things and just go out and play. And you do it in a drop-in room. I think you can set up your own rooms with friends and so on, but I just jumped in and there were a couple of French-Canadian kids out on the ice, and I heard them talking to each other about, the Michigan and one-timer and all these things. It was so cool to hear them just having fun out there. The one little drawback, but I think Eric Comrie would like this week, guys, is that you can't do it as a goalie. You can only do it as a player, but we all love to go out there and be a player. So you can actually take your controllers, grab a stick, you can grab pucks and fire them at targets, do whatever you want to do, learn to be a player and just learn some of those skills and just go out and have some fun. NHL Sense Arena is an incredible tool for learning to be a better goaltender. As Woody says, you can use it like NHL goalies do to warm up before you go on the ice. But I think some of these cool new features like this new Open Skate, it's just a great way to have a good time as well. And it does remind me, by the way, hate to take too long here, but you can also have player accounts on NHL Sense Arena. So if you happen to be that young goaltender who older brothers, older sisters sort of forced into the net to take shots for them, those older siblings can also have an account on Sensorina and learn to be better players as well. They've got a Black Friday sale on right now. Head over to sensorina.com. You can save 50% on an annual plan. You get the sleeves to hook your controllers in for free. And if you use the code IGM50, you're going to save even more.
I like that hangout room.
It's cool.
Did you throw?
We should all do it together.
Did you throw the on a goalie stick? Like, could you put your blocker and glove on, throw the paddles on the goalie stick and stick handle?
I wish you could. Maybe since it's in beta, they could work on that, but it just sent me straight to players.
Because it reminds me of Carey Price would go out in our day with Carey Price in the first 5 or 6, maybe 10 laps around the rink, just stick handling, playing around. Like, that's all the great puck handlers tell you to just grab a puck and go play with it. So as a goalie, if you can do that in that drop-in version, there's real value there other than just having fun.
I'm just having fun. Woody's not going to ruin my fun. Just going to go out there and smile and giggle and try the Michigan.
Well, I mean, in addition to the Shut Up Woody t-shirts, my kids would also like one that says Dad is a fun smuggler. So
fun sponge. There you go.
That's a great term.
Give me the background on the Eric Comrie conversation, where you wanted to go and where you ended up going.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Just any chance to catch up with Eric Comrie is a good day, right? Like his approach to the position. And it had been a few years, and obviously a few tough years in Buffalo, statistically at least, right? And I talked about just how tough the environment he played. I'd never seen a goalie with an expected save percentage of .858 like he had last year in Buffalo. And so to see him come out the other side, get back to familiar surroundings, I want to talk to him about some of the things that were working with the Winnipeg Jets. Won his first 3 starts, giving them a chance to he never wants to come out of the net, right? But giving them a chance to give him a break with a really solid start for a goalie, whose numbers looked crooked last year, but didn't tell the entire story. And he talked a little bit about the changes he's made, but also some of the things in his life that allowed him to stay grounded through the tougher times, including becoming a father and that ability to sort of separate the rink from home. When he's going to the golf course, there's similarities between goaltending and golf, and he gets into those as well. But it's also when you're there, it's a reprieve. So a lot of different angles. We get into technical, we get into mental, we get into a lot of different things. And as Hutch said, his mindset, his approach, his joy for the position all comes ringing through. And a lot of the advice that he gives, I think, will resonate with a lot of young goaltenders. Well, actually, it's going to resonate with a lot of goaltenders. So this is one parents can listen to with their kids for sure. But I think a lot of us can come away with takeaways that'll make us better no matter what level we play at.
Eric Comrie, the NHL Sensorina feature interview on In Goal Radio, the podcast.
Really excited to welcome back to the In Goal Radio podcast. One of our favorite guests, but it's been far too long since we caught up with him. Eric Comrie of the Winnipeg Jets. See, I guess that's what happens if I wait a couple years. I can just reintroduce you as Eric Comrie of the Winnipeg Jets.
I always seem to make my way back, and I think I always like to make my way back. I always have fun with Winnipeg.
Okay, so let me ask you, because you also always have success with Winnipeg. You're back with the Jets, off to a great start this season. What is it? Obviously, the team, the people, flats, playing with Helly. Like, is it just home for you? And does that matter? Like that comfort that you seem to have playing on this team and in that market?
It's everything really. I mean, flats is unbelievable what he does. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still have a lot of great goalie coaches everywhere I've been. I've been a big fan of all of my goalie coaches, but Flats and I have a really special relationship where he knows my game very well. And I think the way he breaks down video is one of the best in the world, the way he does. And he does a lot of skating drills, a lot of different footwork drills. I mean, if practice starts at 11, him and I are there at 10:30 every single day for at least half an hour doing a bunch of drills. Then we're doing 20 minutes after. So that's 50 minutes of goalie drills a day with just Flats. And you can't get that other places. Just because the amount of time we have it's unbelievable. And I think just the whole group in Winnipeg is just very welcoming. It feels like I get almost like a little bit of a comfortability there, which helps me just to play a little bit more loose, a little bit more relaxed, which I've always played my best when I'm like that.
Okay, so you mentioned skating and footwork and all that extra drills. How's that evolved over the years? Flats knows you, probably knows what you like, what you need to feel your best, even when you're not playing a ton. But I mean, it's funny because the game's never been more dynamic east-west. Has the type of things you're doing skating-wise, when you mentioned footwork, when you came up, we used to talk about open skates and going in like you're skating, doing crease patterns. Have you moved? Is it all still in the crease, or is there more outside of the crease these days? And when did that evolve? Not just for you, but maybe even around the league.
It's still a lot of crease work. I still think we do a lot of crease work. We're mostly always in our crease doing skating drills. So he sets up pucks, and I have to move from different puck to different puck, almost like past different things like that. I think we're a big believer in that. We're a big believer in skating in our creases and doing a lot of crease work. If we don't want to mess up the crease, obviously, because if you have practice and you can't switch ice sheets, and we do some work outside the crease, but still, it's like a V drill where you just skate to a puck, and it's very, very basic, very simple things that you do 100 times a game. But it's about just making sure your movements are sharp, making sure you're quick, making sure you're changing directions really quick, and it's just little things like that just keeps you on your game, and it keeps you almost confident to stay on your feet a little longer because it builds a lot of confidence on your feet. So
it's funny you mentioned that. Like, the more complicated the game gets around us, you're talking about alphabet drills, right? Like simple crease movement patterns, back to basics. Stuff.
I mean, and I really don't think there's a better example of making the game simple than Connor Hellebuyck. He makes the game as simple as any goal I've ever seen, and the way he thinks the game, it's unbelievable. And I think me being around him really helps because we talk shop all the time. He's one of the most calm or loose goalies I've ever met in my life. And I'm really in between periods breaking down plays, breaking down scenarios. And we go and watch the video on it in between periods. Like he's very really relaxed, really chill. And we have a great friendship and a great community together. And I think that all three of us working together collectively, it really helps to simplify our games.
Okay, so if a lot of the skating footwork done is still done sort of in the crease or crease movement patterns, have you added, like we see, I think because it went to the Cup final, a lot of people got to see the Bobrovsky ballet, that edge work stuff that's out of the crease and a little more flowy and, a little more sort of body edge connection. Like, have you added that in recent years as well, or is it still just primarily crease stuff?
I do a little bit of that stuff in the summer, but still mostly just crease work, okay. I mean, you look at myself or Connor's game, we don't have a lot of that flow in our game, really. We're more just set to our spot. And you look at Bob, I think he has a little bit more flow to his game, and he plays it really well. He's unbelievable. He's so good at that. And I don't know if I could play that way. It's not really a way that I could play. Definitely not a way that like Helly could play. Helly's very much in his spot. And I think for myself, I'm the same kind of way where it's all about hitting my marks and just making sure I'm set and on my edges the best I can be, but not extra flow, if you know what I mean.
Is that part of the evolution of your career, is understanding what your game is? I guess for any goalie, right? Like you said, like knowing that I couldn't beat that guy, or that's not my strength to try and play that way. This is what I need. This is what I do.
I think so. I think the older I get, the more I realize I can't change my game at this point in my career anymore. It's more I can learn little things and do different things like that. But I think I think when I was younger, I tried to do a lot of different stuff that a lot of people were doing, and a lot of around the league. I was like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. Oh, okay, I got to do this. But now I realize I got to make sure I hone into what my game is and really understand and appreciate where my game is and where it's at. And really just go and build on my weaknesses, but also my strengths, and make sure I understand, hey, make sure you don't neglect anything that's part of your game, but understand if it's not part of your game, I don't think you have to work on it. There's certain things I just don't do as much as other guys. I try and keep on my game.
We think of guys that, and I'm always drawn, and we always have conversations about sort of finding the next thing and what's the next thing. And can you get caught chasing change, watching other guys and maybe changing things for the sake of change or trying to keep up as opposed to rooting down on your foundation? Could that be tempting to do, especially as a younger guy?
So I think it is good as a younger guy, though. I think it is good, especially when you're before you make pro, before you do that stuff. I think it's good to learn as much as you can and try different things out. I tried a bunch of different things out, and it helped me a lot because I learned a bunch of different things. I think it's really good to be as open as you can be. Like, I've had many different goalie coaches along the way, and never was I stubborn and said, no, I don't want to do this. I've always implemented or tried everything that everyone's ever told me to do, because I think no one's ever trying to make you worse. They're only trying to make you better as a player. No one's going to give you advice and say, I want you to do this because they want you to be worse. So everything they did, they told me to do with the effect of making me better. And I believed that And I tried everything I did. None of everything stuck with me. I would try things and give it a really good chance. And if I didn't like it and practice on it, I wouldn't use it all the time. I think it's the old, like, you look at the old Bryson DeChambeau thing. Like I know it's a golf thing, but he said it in his video once. He goes, "You want to do is if you give it a new cue, you want it to be almost instantly working. If it doesn't instantly work or feel good right away, it probably isn't going to mesh with your game the best." And that's what he said. And I believe that to be true in a lot of aspects.
I know you're a golfer. Do you find a lot of paying attention to other, like we always talk about, it's a similar mentality between goaltending and golf, one shot at a time, easiest thing to say, hardest thing to do. Are there other, even body mechanics and how detailed we can get between the two, the way they break down video? Does one help the other? Do you find lessons from one that help you as a goaltender?
100%. Not just golf, but every sport. I think you can learn from every sport. I think you watch quarterbacks, you listen to what they say in their interviews, you watch different pitchers, you listen to what they say in interviews. I think it's a very similar position. The fact that we have to be so mentally dialed in, you learn different things. That I was watching actually a video on Instagram by Bob Bertella, I believe, the sports psychologist, who just said you got to let it loose and play free and play loose. And it's so true. It's the same thing in hockey. I think you can pick up different things from different sports, different athletes, because I watched a lot of different Tom Brady stuff here because I love Tom Brady. I love the athlete he is, or Peyton Manning. I watch things like that just because I think you can learn so much from these guys, and they have so much knowledge in their field that you want to absorb as much as you can from those people.
Do you read biographies? Do you read books from some of those guys, like Bob Bertella, as you mentioned, famous sort of golf psychologist, or just mostly just watching shows on those guys?
It's just like little videos here and there. I mean, I have my own sports psychologist that I work with as well, that I'm a huge fan of, and I really believe in him a lot. And I've worked with different ones along the way. And I think I think the mental game is one of the most important aspects of hockey. And I think learning to really play your process and not dive into the results as much is a really big thing. And I think for myself, it's learning to, and it's still a constant practice. I mean, you're never perfecting this. It's a constant practice until the day you stop playing. Till the day you die, really, is understanding results happen because you're good at the process, and really being great at the process is really the ultimate goal.
Okay, but we also play a position where there's an odd-shaped frozen object bouncing around on ice and 10 guys flying all over, half of them trying to take away your eyes, the other half trying to put that thing behind you. Bounces happen, things happen, defensive environments are different. So process and results, because I've had this conversation, it's early in the season, right? And a lot of guys, how do you deal with numbers? Do you look at them? Do you not look at them? Do you find a way to not look at them? How do you manage that?
Anyone who says they don't look at numbers is not telling you the truth. So I'm telling you the truth and tell you I look at numbers 100%, because at the end of the day, numbers do matter, but it's still, and you still have to, you can judge a little bit based on results afterwards. But when you're in the process, I think you really have to be fully engaged in it. You have to be fully engaged in the process, and what your process is different for everybody. Like, my process is really focusing on my skating, making sure I look and then I move, that I'm feeling tall in my stance, and just I'm repeating those mantras throughout the whole game, and just making sure that, hey, I'm just sticking to it, sticking with it. And then because result-based thoughts will pop up. It's impossible. If you try, it's going to happen. You're a human being. Like, thoughts pop in your head randomly, but you have to. The goal is to get back to your process as fast as you can, away from the results. That's the ultimate goal. Is just to stay the best at your process, and understanding that will take care of the results better than anything else will.
Okay, you mentioned mantras. Do you still have one written on your stick as well as a reminder, or have you changed?
Oh yeah, 100% I do. Yeah, I change it all the time. I have different ones. It's still, my mantra on the stick is still more of a reminder to what I want to do. Is just like breathe and be centered in my body, and not get overly up or overly down, and breathe. And I think for myself, it's little cues like that help me along the way.
Different mantras that you've adopted over the years. I think we had one that we ran at Ingle one year, and breathe was a part of it.
Yeah, breathe. Yeah.
Breath work has been important to you?
I believe it's very big. I believe I do a lot of, I don't know if you've ever heard of like NeuroPeak or Heart Math. It's like HRV training. I do a lot of that stuff where I put like a band on, or a little clip in it. Like, it tells you when your heart rate is in sync. I think for myself, I love the feedback. I love to know, because then when I'm doing it, I can tell when I'm in a state, and then I can try and replicate that state when I'm on the ice, or before I go on the ice, if I'm feeling a little bit nervous, if I'm feeling a little bit wound up. or even a little bit tired, you can use different states to modify how your body feels. I think for myself, I've done a lot of meditation and stuff and breathing without that stuff, but I think having the feedback and knowing when I'm in that space I want to be in, and I can verify it with the numbers I see in front of me, then I understand, okay, this is what it feels like. This is how it feels to be in that zone you want to be in. So I can kind of use that to try and get as close to that as I can around the ice.
So it's one thing to sort of practice it, but to actually know what the ideal is and then know what it feels like, that's where something like NeuroPeak helps you sort of connect those two feelings.
100%.
The feeling to numbers, I guess.
100%. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's all we're doing is different feel-based things. And I think the more you get into the feel where it's the closer feel gets to reality, I think it's when you're playing your best.
Okay. I see. You know me, I love to geek out on the tools, and now you got another one I'm going to have to look up, buddy.
There you go.
So working with that and the breath work, it's interesting that you say when you're fatigued, because I think we always think of sort of breath work to sort of bring us down, but we've had other people teach us things that, hey, sometimes like you need to, start of a period or whatever, you need to raise your level. You've got breathing techniques that do that too.
100%. There's many different breathing techniques, many different things. I've been lucky in so for me, I'm more of the guy that has to calm myself down. I get a little bit nervous. I got to calm myself down, get back to like a relaxed state. I play my best. And you know what? People play best when they understand who they are as a person. Like me, who I am as a person, I'm a talking, outgoing, fun. Like I like having fun and joking around. And I used to play before games where I would get really quiet and to myself, because that's what goalies did. They stuck to themselves. They were quiet. They were all in the corner by themselves. And that was the old saying. That's what goalies do. And that's what I would do. But that would almost drain me because it's not who I am as a human being. It's not who I am as a person. So I learned the more outgoing, the more fun, the more joking around and kind of person being more to who I am as a person I am before games allows me to express my true self. And that's all you're really trying to do on the ice, express who you are on the ice. And I think a lot of people have to understand, like, just because you're goalie doesn't mean you have to be super quiet and super like this. You have to get prepared for the way that your body is best to be playing.
So you do have an outgoing personality. You're a great talker. It's why we love talking with you. And you're passionate about a position that we love. Yeah. So obviously we're biased, right?
Yeah.
But that outgoing nature is not necessarily fit hand in glove all the time with every hockey environment. Is there a lesson here? So did you suppress yourself a little bit and get away from being who you are on the ice just to sort of fit in at times?
100% of it. I tried to be the goalie over there who was super focused, didn't talk all game day because he was so ready to play. And I think everyone like, oh, this guy's going to be ready to play because he's been so focused and hasn't talked all day and super, super dialed in. But realistically, I was draining myself of the energy and the focus and stuff that I needed to play. And I had to go up the ice and like, I'm exhausted. Like, first period comes around, I'm exhausted. I wore myself out from a whole day because my personality type, the more I get quiet, the more I get nervous, the more tired and more fatigued I get. Where if I was the more social, the more outgoing, the more fun I'm having, the more and more energy I build up, the more and more focus, more and more relaxation I can have. And it's just it was kind of a cycle that I didn't understand until I almost like figured out some of my personality traits and I really learned to tune into those.
I love that. And is it easier around, again, you're back with Helly. Is the environment easier to do that when you've got a guy who, like you said, will talk to you between periods, will review video between periods, who's open to those kind of things?
I think I always tell Helly before games, and I mean, I'm just trying to have fun out there at the end of the day. And before the games, I'm like, hey, man, just keep talking to me as much as you can because I know who I am. I'm going to get nervous before games. That's who I am. I'm going to get nervous. I'm going to get a little quiet. So I want him to keep me going, keep me active, keep talking to me. I'll even like have little fidget spinners to play around with just to keep my hands active. And just for myself, it keeps my mind going, keeps my body going. If I get a little bit quiet and still, that's when I get a little bit in my own head and I get in my own way. So I'm trying to get active and have different little things like that and just be talking, be chatting and having fun.
I guess like we hear it, it's become a cliche. I use it so much on this podcast, but tension is the enemy of goaltending, and quiet for you breeds tension.
100%. And that's a great way of putting it. I think quiet stillness breeds tension for me. When I'm relaxed and loose and having fun and joking around with Helly and we're having conversations about anything in life. And we're just chatting. And that's who I am as a person. I think that allows me to be who I want to be.
Does becoming a new dad change any of this? Congratulations, by the way. I know it's been a little bit since that happened and since we've had you on, but like, does it change perspective on anything? Like, I think for all of us, it does.
Yeah, it does change perspective, but I don't think it changed a lot of I was always very family oriented in my whole life. And I think it never really changed who I was as a person, never really changed that kind of stuff. So she's the most important thing in the world to me, but family's always been the most important thing in the world to me. So it's not going to change. And she's always going to be number one. Doesn't matter what happens in life. My family will always be number one, and everything else is really replaceable. Other than that, my family is everything to me. So
for you, it's more that you were always going to be who you were around family and all that. It's a matter of now you're comfortable doing it at the rink, and that allows you to play free.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've learned that through trial and error, that my best games are the games where I'm just having fun and loose. And once again, my sports psychologist helped me dive into that. We did this thing where we would did a character assessment where you do a thing online, and I found out who I was, and who I am is I'm a talkative, joking around person. That's when I'm going to be the best I can be.
That's funny because there is a goalie coach in the league who actually does a personality test with all of his new goaltenders.
Yeah.
In part because he wants to know who they are, but also because he knows he's done the test himself. And so he wants to know if he has to adapt who he is and how he approaches things to fit their personality. Like, it matters. Yeah. Who we are as people matters who we are as goaltenders.
100% does. I mean, who we are as people, it's huge. And I think people get brought into the trap of trying to be like everybody else, but you have to be your own self at the end of the day. And you're going to be your best when you're just expressing your true self on the ice.
A lot of great lessons there for young goalies, Eric. I appreciate you sharing that. You mentioned the videos and talking shop all the time. So what's that like? Is that in between? You said in between periods, you guys will actually talk about saves. Coming to the bench, you come to the bench on timeouts, you're breaking down the game. Is that like unique to you and Helly? Maybe there's other guys who do it, but have you ever done that with anyone else?
People will talk about it. We'll talk about it a little bit, but not to the extent that Helly does. Helly is, Helly's hockey mind is just better than anyone I think I've ever met. And I don't think people have realized that because he kind of keeps it to himself. And I can't go and dive into a lot of it either because he probably wouldn't like me if I did that. But he's very unique in the way.
You told us that we absolutely had to have him as a Pro Reads guest because the way he sees the game is second to none. And some of the stuff he shared with us in terms of where he was, the point in plays where he had read what was going to happen, and that's what happened, was mind-blowing.
He tells me things that I would never have thought of in my life. And it's unbelievable, actually. It's the way he breaks down everything is incredible. The way he knows when to, his positioning is so perfect. It's unbelievable. And for the scenario, him and Craig Anderson are two of the best play readers I've ever met in my life. And it's unbelievable. And they've both had unbelievable careers because of it.
So do you have to, do you just try and take little bits all the time? Do you have to be careful because the way he processes it, can you add that to your processing, or do you have to be careful not to get too ahead of things? Because that fine line between reads and anticipation, and it's never guessing, but a lot of times it's an educated guess. And it is a fine line between the two. He seems to have found that balance, unlike any, like you said, man, Andy used to not even look at the puck on breakaways, for crying out loud.
I know. No, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think it's also about trust. I think it's about learning to trust your instincts. I think before, sometimes I get caught into playing so much and just focusing on the puck and not worried about what's around me. And I think that was a big thing where I changed. I focused more on just allowing myself to trust my instincts and trust my reads and trust my ability to know what's going on around me, and just kind of fully diving into knowing, not always having to know what's going on with the puck, but also know what's going around me. I think Hellebuck's the best at that because the way he talks about, the screen was here, so I know he has to shoot here, and he just goes there. It's unbelievable because he just trusts himself so much and trusts those instincts. And I think the trust component of it is a very big thing, and just knowing, hey, I'm going to go out there and just play on my instincts and trust them.
Does that come with reps too, right? Is that harder when you don't have...
That's a lot of reps. That's a lot of reps. but it's a lot of reps of breaking down video too. Like Helly always talks about, he gets a lot of his stuff by the way he breaks down his video. The way he breaks down his video is really, really good. And just simplifying the game is the easiest. It's the best way I can, and the only way I can describe it, because I can't give away too much about Helly.
I don't. That's the last thing I want to do is put you in a bad spot there. But you did mention, it's funny because I had made a note and I wanted to come back to it. You mentioned that Flats in video, you said he's the best. So the way you guys, we'll leave Helly out of this, but the way you two work together on video, because without those reps, and it's been tough to get them over the past couple of years at times for you, how do you stay sharp on those reads, on those things? Is video a way you can do it? It's what we do with pro reads a lot of the time, right? We want kids to sort of see how you guys look at the game, right? And share that. Can you get better at anticipating or reading the game with video, and how do you do it with Flat?
I think so every time we break down the game is unbelievable, because he just sees it so well. He sees the game so precisely. I mean, he is just every time we go to the video room, it's hard to describe because he sees everything so well. We're always trying to simplify everything, get to our post play better. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And so I've seen a lot of guys who break down video in the sense that we just go over it. We talk about every save. We talk about everything. But we truly take everything that happens in that video session, and if we want to work on something, we create drills specifically for what we saw in that video. And I don't think a lot of guys are doing that as much as you think they are, because I think you just go over the video and then you run your normal drills that you do. We will see a drill, a video session, and we'll go through it. Okay, this is a drill we have to do because this is the thing we want to get better at. Okay, this is a drill we're doing because this is what we want to get better at. And I think he does such a good job of implementing what we see on the video onto the ice sheet, and it's amazing to see.
It's funny because, and I think it might have been back in even bubble time, but I do remember watching him. It was him and Helly and Brossoit at the time do this same drill, and then the next day in a game against the Canucks, the exact play happened. I guess it had been happening in games. That's why they went to the drill. And Brossoit made a game-changing save to win based on the drill work they'd done. So fascinating to sort of see that in real time.
It's unbelievable. Just the way I can't dive into it too much, but the way he sees into how the movements before, the way he sees okay, this is positioning here, this the tracking, how you doing this, and just the way we go through it is very, very, very unique.
Is it focused on you guys, or are you looking at the other team? Like when we talk about reads and stuff, how much of it is sort of connecting the patterns of the game, or is it you guys are just mostly 100% dialed into what you're doing in reaction to that?
We're mostly dialed into what we're doing, but we're seeing the play around us and seeing how we're playing the play in front of us. And we're seeing, okay, this play's happening this here. Okay, how are we going to work on this? Okay, this is a play where I didn't like how you played it. So we're going to make sure we go on the ice and adjust it and make sure that we're playing this. So we're kind of looking at both.
Okay, you said you talk shop all the time with Helly. You mentioned between periods and stuff like that. When you get away from the rink, though, is that when it turns off? Because he may be as passionate a goalie as I've met, but also seems to know when to, okay, we're done with goaltending now. Is that important? Is that something you've learned too? Because you're very passionate about the...
Oh, 100%. I think I've gotten better at that. I've learned to leave my results and everything in the car and not bring them into my house. I can't. I have a daughter who has to have the best dad in the world every single day, in my opinion. I try and be the best possible father to those daughters I can be every single day. And if I'm carrying the burden of what happened last night or what's going to happen from us, if you're having a little bit of a down stretch, I can't bring that home to my family, because she's learning constantly through her eyes right now. And what she sees is what she's going to know for the rest of her life. So I have to make sure that I'm shaping and molding her mind the best of my possibilities. And I have to make sure that I am 100% present and focused with her and having just the best time and making sure I can develop her life the best I can.
Damn, Eric, I need a time machine so I can go back 20 years to when my kids were that age and do a better job. That's really great advice.
By the way, it's not easy. It's hard. It's hard. It's the hardest work of all time, is doing that, is leaving that at the rink. I can go on the ice and skate for hours and do all that stuff and do all the stuff in the gym, and that's the easy work. It's the stuff, it's not bringing it home and being the best dad I can possibly be. That's the stuff where I'm making sure that that's 100% of my focus, because I have to do that, because hockey will come and go. She'll always be there for me.
Okay, so we talked about numbers a little earlier.
Yeah.
How hard was that over the last couple of years when the numbers weren't where you wanted them to be? And how were you able to dissociate or disconnect numbers and results? Because in fairness, and I don't think you guys even have access to this. I don't know if you'd want access to this, but the environment you played behind was the toughest defensive environment in the entire National Hockey League for any single goaltender. But me saying that, I don't know if that helps or not. So how do you, again, this goes back to the conversation I've been having with guys around the league early in a season. If it's going well, if it's not going well, how much do you pay attention to the numbers and how do you disconnect from them when you need to?
So yeah, it's always hard to disconnect. So you have to do it. But I think for myself, I've learned to just leave it in the car. And I mean, I'm very lucky. I get home. I have a great wife who's really happy to see me. It doesn't matter. She can love me. It doesn't matter what my numbers are. She might be a little bit worried about it too. But then I have my dogs who they don't know anything about hockey. They don't really care about hockey.
They can't count.
They run up to me and they're no matter what I did that day, I could have let them 100 goals that day in practice or anything like that. And they don't care. They're just happy to see me no matter what. So that puts a smile on my face. And then I have my daughter who now she can kind of waddle over to me and she doesn't care how I did at the rink because she doesn't know anything that's going on at the rink. And she puts a smile on my face too. So that kind of helps. I mean, seeing the different things at the house definitely helps. I think having passions away from the rink also helps. I'm a big golfer, like you said. Like I watch a ton of golf videos. I understand. I like learning about golf, or just even if things are really bad, I'll throw in a funny movie and just have a good laugh. I don't think there's any better medicine than just laughing and having fun and enjoying things. And I think like who you are as a person isn't defined by what you do at the rink. And I think you have to be, at the end of the day, you're going to get judged on who you are as a person more than who you are as a goalie. I think I try to be the best person I can be. And really, at the end of the day, I can't control results. I can't control what goes on out there. I can control my character. I control my work ethic. I control what I do in practice. And that's what you can control. I can't. Things can go bad. I mean, I'm very fortunate to make the NHL level, but I got here because I worked as hard as I could to get here. Like I did it through hard work. And I think for myself, I trust myself that if I put the process and I worry about what I do in practice and I work as hard as I can, I've done everything I possibly can to achieve the best success. And I got to go out there and just enjoy it and just have fun. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It's at the end of the day, this game's going to tell you at one point when you're done playing it. It'll tell you just got to go out there and do the best you can to make it as long as you can and enjoy it the best you can.
Anything you've changed over the past couple? I mean, there's a constant evolution. Like you said, we talked about rooting into foundations and things you don't want to change, but is there anything that you've tweaked or adjusted that you found has made a difference for you in the last couple of years?
I've made a lot of changes in my game all the time. I'm always constantly changing, doing different things, but if the things don't work, then I'm not going to keep them. But I think the biggest one for me is maybe getting a little bit taller in my stance, like feeling my hands a little bit more active and different things like that, and kind of scanning around the ice a little bit more and just making sure I'm using my body to the best of my ability. For me, standing a little taller makes the game feel a little bit slower and slows everything down a little bit. I think when I get a little bit low, everything feels a little bit fast, a little bit quick. So I think the standing taller, and that's a lot of things that I've noticed that the goalies around the league are doing. I mean, you look at Igor Shesterkin, who played last night. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I played him last night. We played against him last night, and he's very good at staying as elevated for as long as possible, I think, like that. And it's unbelievable to see. I think a good example of that is actually Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen we talked about it a lot last year when I played with him about how he went from being very low all the time to all of a sudden staying a little bit taller and up, getting a little bit bigger and just a little bit narrower. And I think that it's kind of just slows the game down a little bit and allows you to read things. And I think it's the big thing that you see a lot of different goalies are moving towards that. I think that's a big one. It's just like getting a little bit taller, not feeling so rushed all the time.
Well, I was just going to say too, like, I mean, the game's so east-west, the narrower we are, the more mobile we stay. Pekka Rinne used to describe it when he, later in his career, ironically from watching UC Saros, who played less aggressively than he did, which is, I mean, figure that one out from a stereotype standpoint. But I love the way he used to describe to me. He got taller, he got narrower, he stayed in it longer, and he kept his hands out. Like he tried, like you talked about, sort of keeping the hands a little relaxed out front. He described it like looking at a steering wheel driving, like everything just sort of kept it in front of him.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I honestly think the first goalie that really did a lot of that was Henrik Lundqvist. He stood very tall at the end of he got really tall at the end of his career, hands really in front of him. And I think it helped him just kind of slow everything down. I remember when he first came to the league, he was quite bent over, but as he got more and more used to NHL level, he got higher and taller and taller. Yep. I think you could see the elevation in that one. I think the evolution he had in his game really helped him simplify his game. I mean, he was always really good, but I think the older he got, you have to simplify your game a little bit more and more because you can't quite be the athletic goalie you always were. I think you have to. It's a constant evolving and getting better and different things like that. And I think that's kind of where the game is headed to. And I remember Henrik Lundqvist being the first guy. I was like, wow, he really is. He's so patient, so calm, so relaxed. And I think it's because how tall he was and how calm he was.
I just feel like you have more time up there sometimes. Or is it a matter of trusting it too? Because after, like, the one thing about staying tall and narrow is you can feel like it's a long way down to the ice sometimes.
Yes, you definitely do. You spoke trusting and about working. I mean, I'm not perfect at it yet either. It's still a learning thing I have to get better at. It's something I go over all the time in my videos. Make sure, kid, that I play tall today. It's one of my things that I play tall. That was I calm? Was I tall? And I think for myself, those kind of blend into each other. And I think it's about working on every single day in practice, making sure that you're not getting overly amped up almost. Because I think when you get amped up a little bit, you get a little bit lower and you want to explode at things. When you're tall and calm, things kind of just happen around you. Let things kind of work out. Again,
I go back to tension, right? When we think about getting low and wide, we think about locking in I don't know if he loves it when I use this, but as James Reimer would say, I'm getting too horny.
Yeah, Rhymes would definitely say that. I mean, I think Rhymes and I are a good example of that. We got low and we played sometimes with attention. I think the better we played, I can't put words in Rhymes' mouth, but for me, for sure, the better I played, and I look at my video, and I think sometimes when I was amped up and I was playing and in the NHL, I'm playing in the NHL, I'd be so explosive so quick. It got me a little bit amped up. And even you look at my best, like when I played I was like, man, I'm always playing so good in the American League. I'm playing at a level that I can't replicate in the NHL. And I'm like, I look at my games, I wouldn't look like the same goalie because I get tension, I get amped up, I get low. And then when I was playing in the American League, I was a little bit taller, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more calm, letting things happen, just trust it more. And my year in Winnipeg, I mean, this is obviously a couple of years ago, but when my year in Winnipeg with Flats, I really just made sure I was like, hey, actually, it happened more. First time I really noticed this was I was in Detroit. I mean, not Detroit, but I was in Detroit and I was playing a little bit like a lot of tension, a lot of amped up, and I got claimed back by Winnipeg. I'm like, I gotta be more calm and tall. And I tried to play a little bit more loose and calm and tall in the American League. And the next year I got claimed by New Jersey. And I said I played one game there, but I played a really good game. I played really calm, really tall, positional. And it just made the game feel a lot easier. And I kind of guilted into the next season. I went to Winnipeg as the backup job in Winnipeg the next year. And I played that whole season that way. And I think it really helped me.
You mentioned scanning the ice. Is that something you're still working on? Like we talked about reads.
Yeah.
But I'll make this the last one because as usual, I've kept you for too long because the conversation's fascinating.
That's okay.
But when? I think this is a really important lesson for young kids. I talk to goalie scouts all the time and they're watching kids that they're scouting for the draft, like right up to junior. And they're like, man, doesn't look off the puck enough. Is that a really important lesson, especially as the game gets so fast? And so do you, as a guy, I know that some of it's instinct, some of it's feel, and it just comes with time and reps. But as a guy that I know has a process, like, have you identified when are the times you can take a look? Is there a lesson that you can share on that?
The best thing I learned from it was watching Connor Hellebuck, but also watching YouTube videos. I don't know if you guys ever seen goalies in action, like the in-action videos, and like watch Bobrovsky.
I haven't seen those ones, but certainly have not watched enough Bobrovsky.
Watch the Bobrovsky clip of goalie in action and watch how many times he looks off the puck. And I think that is why I was like, man, he's really scanning the ice a lot. I think for myself, it helped me develop like an awareness of like, wow, he's really looking. I got to make sure I look more. And I'm probably not as much as him, but I think he's one of the best at scanning the ice and the way he plays. I think he's unbelievable. He's so good. His skating is so good, and he's like you said, his edge work is so good because he works on it a lot. But the way he does it is he's also scanning and knowing where things are going, so he can play a little bit more off his read because he's so good at scanning the ice. It's unbelievable. I mean, I remember if you ever get a chance, you got to watch those goalie in action YouTube video clips. And I think for myself, I really was eye opened by how much Bobrovsky was looking off the puck. And I know.
Did you start to map out when it's okay to when are the safe spots? Are there times on the ice where, hey, I better scan?
Yeah, I think there's guys on a shooting threat, you have time to scan. You have more time than you think. It's another thing of trusting, understanding. You have more time to scan than you think because if he's not an immediate shooting threat, you're gonna have more time. I mean, now I hope this doesn't cost me a goal. Now I'm scanning and looking off the puck, but you never know. It might. But at the end of the day, it might, for every goal it costs, it might save you for knowing what's going on around you. And I think, I know Wade. Flats here has the he used to have the 3-second rule for some of his other goalies, where every 3 seconds you should be taking a look at.
Wow, I like that, and that's a lot of people wow, every 3 seconds, and hey, no, not if the guy's standing at the dot with the puck in a shooting position. Yeah. But it tells you how important it is.
I also don't think anyone has a stopwatch going 1, 2, 3. Oh, time to look. 1, 2, 3, time to look. I don't think anyone's thinking about that. It's just a cue to make yourself look a little bit more.
And it's a key to. You also don't always have to have a full TED. It can just be a quick.
No, it could just be a quick, even just a quick eye movement. It's fine. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a full thing. You have to be aware, counts, know where guys are shooting, righties, lefties, know who's on the ice, what's their tendencies. And I think that's one of the biggest things that helps is learning guys around the league and learning, okay, righties, lefties, where are your one-timers, where are your threats, when do I have to be more aggressive, when can I give a little bit of ice because this guy's not much of a shooter. Oh, this guy's a shooter, this guy's one of the best shots in the league, I got to make sure I take a little bit more. Well, that's a one-timer on the side because he's playing his offside. I got to make sure that I know that I can get over there as fast as I can because that guy has a really good one-timer. Little things like that help.
Right. This guy's down low. I got to slide across. This guy's up high. I can beat it on my feet. All those little details. Does it help actually, if you're thinking about those things as part of it, does it take some of the tension out? You're no longer thinking about, I'm doing this, I need to do that. You're just processing and playing the game.
You're in your process. And once again, that's part of the process. It's like you're taking results out of it. And all you're doing is playing your process. And I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing a goalie can do is just understand that the goal is not to play a result game. The goal is not to win the game. The goal is not to have a shutout. The goal is not to have a 9-2-5. The goal is to play your process the best you can and just stick to it.
I love it.
And that's what I tell myself is before every day is control what you can control, trust your process, play your process, and let results just happen. And I think it allows me to have fun on the ice. And I think, and people have to understand, not every game's going to be great. You're not always going to be your best. I've gone through many games where I'm like, oh man, I don't have it tonight. And it's a part of the way it is. And you just got to keep battling through your process and doing the best you can. And sometimes goaltending's funny.
I love it. It's great. It's great advice, and it's a great way to end, Eric. As always, I can't thank you enough for all your time and your openness and willingness to share. There's some advice in there that I know is going to resonate with goalies and goalie parents as they sort of hopefully. They all try to, well, not all, but some of us are just stuck in beer league, but the ones that are trying to get to where you are today in the National Hockey League.
Hey, I played men's league roller hockey in the summer as a player, so I know what it's like. I love it. I look forward to it more than because I love hockey. I love playing hockey, so I love that roller hockey.
Do you learn anything about processing the game when you're out as a forward, or is the level just not even comparable?
Level's not comparable, but I do learn that you don't have as much time to pick your corner as you think you do. You're more just shooting at a net.
So knowing that as a goalie probably helps.
It definitely does help because you understand that your job is to fill space sometimes.
I love it. Okay, Eric. Great to see that smile. Great to see you back in Winnipeg, where it feels just natural. And I look forward to catching up in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Hutch, your favorite part of that discussion?
Well, like I said, it was just the mindset stuff and trusting the process, that it's not about the score, that it's not about the stats. In itself, that clip, which comes later in the interview, sort of sounds like the absolute ideal. And I'm sure people are going to listen to that and say, that's not even possible. You got to be kidding. Reference back to the beginning of the interview where he says, you're a liar if you say you don't look at the stats. It's real. So he's sort of acknowledging that this is a challenge, but this is what we're shooting for. I think in this day and age where we see so many influencers on the web acting like they have this perfect life and this perfect approach to everything, I think Eric mentioning that this is the ideal, but it's not perfect, I think that's a good way to go.
My favorite one, and this is interesting because we talked about being a pro, but Eric's advice to be yourself and how he was trying to be someone else by being that quiet, serious goalie that everybody thought was dialed in, rather than being talkative and chatty, which is who he is, obviously, from the interviews we've done, right? And that he was actually suppressing a part of himself, trying to play the role of, that intense, focused game day guy. So you can do all your work to make sure you're ready to play, but you don't have to be somebody you're not. And Eric's sort of discovering that at this point in his career has been we hear it all the time, right? My favorite Ian Clark line, tension is the enemy of goaltending. What's going to make you more tense than trying to bottle everything up and be intense when it's not necessarily your personality? And that, Eric talking about that being a big part of what he's able to do in Winnipeg, just being himself now at this point in his career, really resonated with me as well. And I think a lot of kids, yeah.
I love that. There's so many people that follow that prototype of being the serious goaltender and zoning and all the things that go with it.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate, though, because while I completely agree and while I believe that kids play better if they are themselves, you hit a level in the game when there are people making decisions about you as a goaltender that have their ideal stereotype of a goalie, and they struggle to handle a kid that just likes to go out there and have fun. So you really do have to temper that and be careful. Find a way to be yourself sort of internally, where at the same time, you sort of got to read the room with your coach and your GM and so on. I know GMs who have moved on for goaltenders because they thought they weren't serious enough. And so it's unfortunate if you're a coach listening to this.
You're absolutely right. But if you're one of those GMs listening to this, give your head a shake and see if it comes 100%. out of your posterior. Because look at here's a kid who's having success, and look at what that does to kids mentally when you're asking them to be someone they are not, because you have a stereotype about a position that, frankly, 99% of you haven't got a freaking clue about anyway.
I couldn't agree more.
If you know a GM that's like that, tell him.
Yeah. And like, be clear. I'm not saying that's.
But Hutch is right.
Yeah, I'm just saying be careful. I'm not saying you need to be that way. I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm just saying be careful.
Yep. Fair advice.
Couple of people taking away all my fun now. Hutch.
No, I'm not taking it away. Those GMs are taking it away. I'm just, maybe.
I'm just going to get on my unicorn, ride over, and swim with the dolphins. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have all fun in my perfect little world over here. You guys can't ruin any part of my day.
Fun smuggler t-shirts for all.
Shut up, Kevin. Fun smuggler for Hutch. I'm sad. I am sad because the episode's over. I like hanging out with you guys.
Go stop some pucks.
I'm going to try.
Have fun, Darren.
It's in a saver too.
Fun. Be a pro.
Hutch, what do you, well, not sure about the pro, but I'm going to smile a lot, much to Hutch's chagrin. Thanks to Eric Comrie for stopping by today. Love that conversation. The Hockey Shop, Source of Sports, Langley, Cam, keep up the great work. We got some fun stuff. Visual Edge, that's a Z in Visual Edge. Keep that in mind if you're Googling it. And of course, NHL Sense Arena. And the pro reads, the parent segment brought to you by Stop It Goaltending, the app, everything's coming together and it works together. So look at all those different ways to make the purchases with our sponsors work for you, because they do have a connection along the way. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week on In Goal Radio, the podcast.